Oh wow, it's been a minute, hasn't it? Where were we again? Oh, right, yeah.
Huh?
Alright, we're back, and this time we're focusing on a specific timeline branch. Sorry for the long wait, but I'm back at least for this one. This time we have a lot more to talk about. And in this video, there's gonna be a whole lot more spoilers, obviously, for Fate Apocrypha. As explained from last time, this timeline is a branch off main possibilities from the Third Holy Grail War, which coincidentally occurred during the Second World War. Numbers are fun. Anyways, as explained in the previous video, go watch it if you haven't yet. Darnik Preston Yagdamilia, a Magnus who worked for the German Workers' Party during the war, ran away and took the Holy Grail with him to Romania, and the world would remain relatively normal until the early 2000s. So, the Fourth Holy Grail War doesn't actually occur, and Shiro doesn't lose his biological family and have to sea over a fire during the end of the Fourth Holy Grail War. Spoilers. But you probably already know that. Then in 2004, the Nazi war criminal tells the Mage Association that he has stolen the Holy Grail. So they send the boys after him, but they fail, because it turns out that Darnak used the Grail to summon a servant, Vlad the Third. Despite being able to successfully protect the Grail, one Magnus was able to reach the Grail and united, forced the Holy Grail to activate, meaning that the result must be war. But this time, it was extra big, allowing 14 servants instead of the usual 7. Conveniently, 14 can be divided by 2 pretty well. So what does that mean? Team warfare. Yagadamilia's family and allies then become Team Black, and the Mages Association then form Team Red. Except not really, because Donak is an actual Nazi and thus can't be trusted. Sets up 5 to 7 Red Team Mages, tricking them and trapping them into a trance with the help of Shiro, the Christian one, in order to control the war and guarantee his victory. However, there were 2 red team mages that managed to avoid capture, and they did summon their own servants. This series introduces a few iconic characters. Originally, Apocrypha was meant to be an online MMO game, a story that would change and have its ending be different depending on what players did. Bit like an ARG. Well, understandably, this was very complicated, especially in the 2000s. So, here comes the light novels and a new anime based off of them. So you're not going to really miss anything if you watch or read one over the other. So let me regale you on the rich lore of the Apocrypha. We begin with 3 dudes talking, one of them being Lord Elmalloy II. He's an important character in the future, and we'll get to him, and he's currently deciding which mages should go and fight the Holy Grail War. Shishigo Kairi is a capable mage who gets summoned to England and was told that he would be fighting for the Mage Association in this war. They tell him that Yagadamilia had betrayed the Mages Association. Why they thought the man with World War II German ties would be trustworthy is beyond me, but hey, now the Yagadamilia house has the Grail. They tried to send a few people back, as explained earlier, and they failed. Now they have to play the game.
It's all about the game and how you play it.
So Yagadamilia's friends all have their servants, and the red team gets their servants, and the battle is begun. Well, Shishisuke gets himself a tomboy Mordred, team not, I mean, the black team. Wait a minute, black. Gather around in Yagadamilia's castle and talk. Here we are introduced to our servants. Their identities are meant to be a secret. Let's quickly go over them. Frankenstein's
Uh,
monster, Vlad the Impaler. Chiron, Greek centaur known to teach the demigods of the Greek mythology. Siegfried, the Dragon Slayer. The living trap known as Astolfo,
huh?
Jewish poet and philosopher of Braun and Jack the Ripper, the serial killer. At the same time, Red Team's fan favorite tomboy, Mordred, talks about her daddy issues. Or mommy issues? Yeah. While we're here, let's have a brief breakdown of the real-life counterparts that these characters were inspired by. Vlad obviously does not look like that. In fact, none of the servants probably look anything at all like their inspirations. Vlad the Impaler was the partial inspiration to the classic horror monster Count Dracula. The real Vlad was a ruler of old Romania and took part in many battles, mainly against the Ottomans, where his fate was finally ended in one decisive battle. Known for his wicked ways of torturing people and having corpses being put on display on stakes, hence the nickname the Impaler, he is the Lancer class because stakes and lances are both long and pointy. A vice Braun, originally known as Solomon Gabirol. Now, as you might imagine, for a philosopher and poet, he's got a lot of works and a pretty complex history that I won't be going through. But I will say the main inspiration for how his powers work in this Fate universe, there was a story that he had magic powers and created a female golem amongst a bunch of other magical things. Obviously, these are very much embellished and fantasized. What's the perfect story for a caster to have? Chiron, a centaur that is known to be different from his usually drunken, rowdy frat brothers. Wise and just, he's been known to teach demigods in the past. Astolfo, a fictional paladin of Charlemagne, whom for which he likely learned the power of becoming best girl from. Jack the Ripper, who looks like a child in this version because she's based on an idea of all the dead kids around the Victorian era. Also, the serial killer who cut women open in the middle of the night. Siegfried, German folk hero who killed a dragon. All you need to know for now.
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
And of course the character of Mordred, based upon Mordred, the Arthurian tales. The title of Arthur, angry and tough, she's ready for a fight. Superkey Roche, who loves Viceperon, it's a one-way street that will soon bite him, or I guess he technically bites it. Pauls and Fira are decent enough people throughout the story, but currently they work for Darnak, who, Same time, we are now introduced to the ruler class, Artoria Jean d'Arc. Who would ever mix those two up, huh? You know they look the same? Hero, the Christian one, a red team's assassin who is actually his servant. So Shishigo and Mordred go to Romania, and so do the other servants, and the Holy Grail War properly begins. Around this point, there's another twink that gets introduced named Sieg, though he doesn't actually have a name yet. He bursts out of his incubation chamber inside the Yega d'Amelia basement. Astolfo saves him from a doom, because twinks look out for twinks.
助けて。
Sieg is a homunculus, which is an artificially made person. So now Red Team's Lancer, Karna, attacks Jean, who at this point possesses a French local girl called Laetitia. Why does she look like a Saberface? Because my life is a waste of time. I technically forgot her to include her in the Saberface video because she's a different person. God damn it. So, anyway, as we know, it's not his master doing, but Shiro's, because he wants to cause a bit of chaos with the war as his plan, and his plan was Darning's to take control of the girl before it all plays out. Siegfried and Gordov's dad are also involved in this scuffle, and despite the class advantage, Karnak escapes, and the next day Sieg wakes up and gains a brain. Talks with Chiron, while Fran, Frankenstein's monster, talks with her master Kulse about her history. Obviously, she is not historically accurate, because, look at that thing. Those are not the same things. While these characters do some good old bonding, Shishigo finds out that for some reason, the rest of his team is suddenly launching a direct attack at the enemy base. Very illogical. Red Team's Rider and Archer watch as their berserker wallows towards the enemy camp. And hey, only two of them were probably almost definitely made up. The third one was likely real. Spartacus was a slave of ancient Rome who rebelled and led others in a massive revolt before he was finally slain. Achilles is a demigod who had a body completely immune to damage except for his left heel, and most famously participated in the Trojan War. He currently got the rider class because he rides his boy toy Patroclus. He had a chariot at one point that was pulled by two immortal horses. And Atalanta, a regular human baby abandoned by her parents and raised by a bear before returning back to humanity. Good at archery, so why is she a cat girl instead of a bear girl? Because there's a myth where she got turned into a lion as a punishment for banging her husband in front of Zeus's shrine. Spartacus, of course, gets teamed up on and captured. He'll be used for later,
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
and his teammates then have a skirmish with Fran and Siegfried. Chiron adds support, and the identities of the demigod and centaur are revealed to one another, because, they recognize how they fight. Siegfried and Gordov's dad are told to hunt down Sieg, who Astolfo is trying to sneak out. Siegfried thinks that slavery is wrong, and with the help of Jean, they knock out Gordov's dad, and Siegfried gives his life to stabilize Sieg's artificial body, which was currently failing him. So they then all depart. Astolfo gets admonished for his actions. Red Team reconvenes, still not sure where their masters actually are. Jack's original master was taken out, and Jack currently has a different master. In some supplemental short stories, it is revealed that the original master, who had a lovely lady with him, had decided to use her to help summon Jack. Halfway through the process, Jack was summoned and decided that the green-haired girl was her mother, and removes the jaw and stitches her mother back to full health. She then transfers the command seals for the magnets to this lady named Rika, who then decides to participate in the Holy Grail War herself. Oh yeah, also because she has no magic of her own, Jack needs to feed on other people's hearts for fuel. So yeah, Jack and her master are currently in Romania. Tashiko begins to gain access to Mordred's memories, and Mordred shows that she has some Artorial-like qualities in her. A Vice Brown builds his army, and night falls and chaos begins to kick off. Jack's here, and she's brought the mist, which covers an entire street. She and Mordred then battle while Chiron gets involved. Shishiko duels with Fiore, and it's about to take her out before the other sibling gets involved and saves her. Horseman and Tomboy get into a scuffle. Siblings manage to escape. Fiore admonishes her brother for helping her because it ruined the original plan, but is thankful that he saved her life. Jack's master Roy is busy being a doting mother to her and feeding her cake and humans. The murders. Sieg is currently in a small farmhouse talking with an old man about what Sieg wants in life. Jan is introspective. Shiro is with Semiramis, who historically ruled the Neo-Assyrian Empire as its regent for 5 years, conquering most of the Middle East during that time. So, why was she classed as an assassin? Because poison was sometimes associated to her. So fate ran with it and decided to make that her shtick. Also chains. She likes chains. A lot of chains. She finds herself falling in love with Shiro because Rose by any other name is still Shiro. Hero protagonist rank still applies. So both sides perpetrate this fake war and gather more troops to fight again. Night falls and melee starts, and Shiro's plan begins to come together. Achilles battles his old teacher Chiron. Fran fights Shiro. Sieg launches a rescue mission for the other homunculi. Fran has a flashback to her fake version of backstory. Should be noted that the real Frankenstein monster was a pretty cruel creature after being given life, killing Victor's loved ones and tormenting him until the day he died, as a very brief abridged version of telling of Mary Kelly's Frankenstein story. Here, of course, she was a cute anime girl for marketing reasons and was cruelly cast aside by her creator. Vice Brawn unleashes a mutated Spartacus, now under his control, sort of. Astolfo gets sniped by Atalante, and then clashes with the tomboy, who beats her pretty easily. Tomboy over femboy, then Fran comes out to help the Sith, only to be squashed. Tomboy over quiet girl. Tomboy superiority reigns. Then C gets involved trying to protect them and gets stabbed. You know what they say? Rock beats scissors. Tomboy beats twing. Fran desperate proceeds to do a Chaozu, but Tomboy energy does not die out easily. Black Team Berserker eliminated. Sieg, with his bloodlust, manages to hallucinate Siegfried back to life. Himbo versus Tomboy begins. At the same time, Vlad and Karma meet and Spartacus goes wild and interrupts everything, prompting Jean to be involved as now they need to get rid of the ticking time bomb that is Spartacus. Which Jean's invincibility skill is done pretty easily, barely an inconvenience. The evil German man now goes up to a floating castle created by Semiramis and the Greeks. Now the Greek heroes and Karma now face off against Vice Braun, Vlad, and Chiron for causing all this. Also, it just hit me. A Vice Braun is Jewish. It means nothing to the story, but it's kind of weird how the Jewish guy is working with Yagdamilia. Yagdamilia, being a Nazi, proceeds to betray Vlad, and Yagdamilia fuses Vlad and himself together to form a nameless vampire, because you're not Vlad Impaler unless you're linked to vampires. Vlad proves to be a problem, but thankfully, the traveling priest Shiro performs an exorcism and beats him, or in the heretic. Black Team Assassin eliminated. Shiro then reveals his dastardly plans, and in order to keep Red Team's master safe, Red Team must work with them. Karma does immediately, but the other two are kinda wishy-washy with it all. At this point, Astolfo's kinky master goes a bit crazy, but then Morgy takes care of him. Tomboy over Yanare. That means Astolfo is a free servant and needs a new sugar daddy, and Sieg is right there. Now back to the main action. Shiros now sets the stage, and other spirits begin to choose sides, and kerfuffle breaks loose and causes everyone to scatter. Sieg now takes his time to gather up the homunculi, and with the help of siblings, manages to free them all. Vespron fully on board with Shiro, using his own master to bring everything that is needed to create a giant new monstrosity golem, and uses the poor fanboy of his master as the vessel for it. Never meet your heroes, I guess. As the young boy's getting his dreams shattered and turning into a golem monster, the other homunculi are being treated in a safe area, and the main protagonists have some time to gather themselves. Zeke gets hot and steamy in Jean, and of course, with Astolfo. But unfortunately, the monster comes up, and everyone working on Team Good works together to eventually take down the golem. This new hodgepodge team now makes a plan to go and fight Shiro on his floating castle. Of course, there has been a servant that hasn't been in play for a while now, Jack the Ripper, and it's time for her to play. After near miss was heard, the group decided that dealing with this massive serial killer took priority over Shiro, who was currently just waiting for them. After a quick date between Sieg and Jean, the game is on. Using clues, they manage to track down Jack and her crazy master Rika. The mom and daughter duo are cornered and surprised. Atalanta comes in and steals the kill. Unfortunately, Rika uses the last of the command spells to turn Jack into full demon baby, where she proceeds to cover the town in fog and with the help of some creepy horror movie children. Hooray! Jean the Saintess performs her exorcism spell, frees Jack from her anguish. Black team assassin eliminated. Atalanta has a bit of a mental breakdown due to seeing all these kids getting vaporized and begins her emo mark. Like in her real world myth, Atalanta was abandoned at birth and raised by a bear. But however, this abandonment in the Fate universe messed with her mind, and now seeing Jean snap a bunch of kids made her her enemy number uno. So not great. Siblings all the while use this time to trade the right for Chiron, decided for Fiore to have live a life without needing magic anymore. With Mordred and Shishigo having another heart-to-heart before the final battle, night falls, and one last piece of flirting with Astolfo later, they head off. It is revealed that Shiro and Samira's also captured Willie Shakes to make sure that he wouldn't turn Shiro's story into a tragedy, forcing Big Billy to follow their orders. With that, the fight begins. The good guys hijack a bunch of airplanes from a local airport and attack. There, the Greeks go to war. Atalanta goes after Jean, and Achilles faces off with his old teacher. Chiron's taken out after a hard fight from Achilles, but he manages to shoot Achilles' heel with his constellation, destroying Achilles' main power. The remaining team sneak into the base. Atalanta has a mental breakdown before turning her class into Berserker and goes feral. Oh, this is definitely a king. Achilles had only been helping Shiro out of loyalty, realized that maybe the world was a bit more important than looking for these fights, and decides that the good guys were getting a little bit overwhelmed now. So he handles his cat girl half sister in place of Jean, letting her sneak further into the castle. Now, with the sun god Kama about to destroy everyone with his son, Sieg now temporarily turning into Siegfried, fighting the sun is a very difficult matter, and it looks like it's going to be too much for old Sieg. Then the king of Suck comes in, and using the gear given to him by Achilles, goes and turns the tides. With Kama finally eliminated, Red Team, Latzer, eliminated. The Greeks taking themselves out, the freshest pair of legs left were that of the tomboy. My god, those are some good legs. Rigo and Mordred duel with Semiramis. Mordred reflects on how she destroyed Camelot and always tried to reach her father, mother, clone source, whatever, but was never able to be good enough. Semiramis, with her trump card, unleashes the Beast of Tiamat, looking to destroy them both, only for a wounded Chichigo using the last of his command seal to power up Mordred enough to slay it. However, with the beast slain, Shishigo passes on from his wounds. Unfortunately, that means that Mordred no longer has a mana source to live off of, which means that the tomboy levels of this show have drastically fallen. Aw. Shakespeare, under the orders of Shiro, kills Steal Jean. So, how does a playwright beat a warrior? Surrounding her with her fallen comrades, and a reminder of her burning to death, he finishes off the trauma combo by showing her the fate of her most loyal follower, Gilda, who, like his historical counterpart, goes on to murder several children in the hundreds. John, however, has always been the virtuous one, and with the aid of his Sieg, manages to convert Gills and overcome the trauma challenge. However, all this fighting gave Shiro just enough time to put on his hair extensions and battle against Jean. Jean, now decked out in her holy gear, battles Shiro. But Astolfo cannot help as Semimaris is still alive and manages to restrain him. Shiro's edginess is too much for her pure holy powers to take down. She is eliminated. Sieg now with the help of Klaus, then uses all his remaining Fate servant powers and faces off against the Edgelord. And with one final strike, he destroys both the floating castle and Shiro's dreams. Shiro, however, does not instantly die, and is able to spend the last few minutes with Semiramis, watching the sun as they both pass on, reflective of their attempts to do what they couldn't achieve when alive. Sieg and Astolfo find themselves in a flower garden, and before anything could happen, the two twins are interrupted by Icefield. Wait a minute, you're supposed to be in the next series. The vessel for the Grail appears to congratulate the two on their victory. Then Sieg uses his wish to keep the Grail safe and away from humanity, turning him into Fenrir the dragon. The important love triangle is finally concluded, as despite Astolfo being the right man to be the best girl, and a literal flower gardener alone with his love Sieg shatters the femboy's heart by telling him that he ain't into that gay shit, and needs the big sister Oni-chan Oppai energy or something like that. Returning back to the real world, they fly off while Shakespeare comes, or something along those lines, as he happily concludes the Holy Grail War. Way too much excitement before releasing. Sieg, now scaly, soars away with the others following behind him. Jean was now gone, and an original French lady, Laetitia, turns in her place and is able to live a normal life. She later on goes on an airplane to travel the world. Wells proceeds to join the magic school of Lord Elmaloid II, who we will be seeing again very soon. Well, if I make the video, of course. Snowfall, I guess, just exists now and roams the world. Fiore no longer has magic and is able to walk again due to the fact that the magic circuits inside her legs are now gone. Later on, John, the historical servant, meets up with Sieg and they manage to spend their life together once more. This is the story of this timeline is more or less concluded. Was the Great Holy Grail War finished? Though, don't forget, this is not actually the main timeline, so we gotta go back to the original. And what do we do after we reach the original? Well, we gotta go to the Fourth Holy Grail War. Fourth Holy Grail War, another timeline, the main timeline, the one that helped bring Fate to the mainstream series. The story that happens before Stay Night, the sequel prequel, the one that starts it all. Here we begin, Fate.